Welcome to the Empowered Embodiment Revolution, where women leaders reveal how to liberate yourself from body battles so you can follow your heart, own your power, and shine in the world. I'm Darlene Downing. I am your host for this event, and it is my joy and privilege to be here with you today. I have with me the profound and playful Valerie Schultz. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Darlene. How are you?
I'm wonderful. There you are. Oh, Valerie is such a dear friend, teacher, and sister, and we've known each other for a while now, and I'm just really inspired by her gift that she has of deeply listening to her body while she's also being very connected to her higher self, her spiritual guidance, and the messages that she receives from the earth, and also her ability to really tap into support in all realms. It's a beautiful thing to witness, and I am excited to be sharing her with you today. Valerie Schultz Gonzalez is the founder of Lavian Healing, which means the embodiment of healing through the heart. She's a mystic healer, a spiritual teacher of the new paradigm and era, whose mission it is to help awaken and empower humanity by teaching how to reconnect with their soul and soul purpose. Valerie transmutes a divine light energy called Lavian that alchemizes the density of human experience into more harmony and alignment with the sacred. She joins us here today to share her love and passion in empowering women as we dive more deeply into the topic of reloving the eccentric you. So welcome again, Valerie. I am just thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Darlene. It's such an honor to be here and to be invited as a guest in this amazing journey.
You're meant to be here, sister, and I am thrilled that you're going to be adding your voice to the conversation.
Thank you so much.
So before we dive into your wisdom with how we can love the eccentric you, I'd like to start the conversation off and ask you the question, how do you define empowered embodiment?
I define empowered embodiment just somebody having the ability and the tools and the capacity to connect into themselves and to connect into their body and accept their body and use their body for the magnificent tool that it is to help them be empowered to navigate their life in the most graceful and loving way that they can.
I love that. I love that. And, you know, you and I have talked a little bit before, and one of the reasons that it felt right for you to be here as you didn't always feel empowered in your body. And my intention with this summit and bringing all these speakers together is to invite women to see that they're not alone on this journey if they're feeling disempowered in their body right now. So I would love if you would be comfortable sharing your personal body story and any struggles that you had and what it was that shifted that so that you could experience empowered embodiment.
Sure, absolutely. It's always that question of where do I begin? I think as young as I can remember, honestly, I had, I received messages from my family that my body was not perfect. So I kind of had, I remember even at a small age of 5 years old, being compared to my cousin and just kind of having them see us and just say, oh, this one's, basically this one's fatter than the other. And, spend time trying to correct me. So I had this message all of my life since I was very young that I was inherently flawed, that I was wrong, that there was something wrong with me. And so I just kind of held on to that, as my story, and funny enough, like when I look back at pictures, I was not overweight as a child, but because I took on that story so well, I began to gain weight, and I began to be overweight. So my early, like my early teen years, and I guess my tween years, as my daughter would say, in my teen years, I was overweight, and I was very large, and I'm also 5'10", so just feeling like I was just too big to be in a space, right? I was kind of didn't want to take up any room, but I mean my physical body was taking up a lot of space, and with that, just continued getting those messages from my family of, oh, that outfit looks nice on you, but it would be so much nicer if you were 20 pounds lighter. Those kinds of messages that, somehow they're trying to help or be helpful to keep you or put you inside of a box, but I was never able to be put in a box. I was, me. And so it was a struggle to be me, but at the same time, I felt like I had a part of me that was like, this is who I am. And so it was just that duality inside of me that I struggled with. And in my high school and college years, I definitely, I feel like I developed an eating disorder, just, overeating and then purging my body in very unloving ways, and, kind of shifting from like being extremely healthy, like, vegan diet and on vegetables and fruit, and like shunning anything that was, carb based, to going to like getting a dozen donuts and eating them in one day, just kind of really just swung back and forth, and it was just like, okay, and this is kind of part of the journey that I have to go through. And I got really sick when I was 21. I kind of had like a physical and emotional breakdown, and I feel like I almost passed. It was kind of this moment in my life where I was, bedridden for a month, and all of my organs actually shut down, Darlene, and I couldn't eat anything. And I just kind of, in that space, asked for help. I said, either take me, let me like kind of take my soul and start all over, or I really need support and clarity and understanding of why this is happening to me, and why I'm here. So I healed, and I ended up having to have surgery and all these crazy things, but that's a whole other seminar. But
so what's a bit wacky with you had to have what?
I ended up having to have like like at 23, I had to have my gallbladder removed, which Valerie now is like, I had so many, now I have such a toolbox where I could have healed myself, but at that point in my life I didn't have any of the tools, so I kind of had to just go with what was there, which was a system of medicine, of like tradition or Western medicine. So right. I just kind of had to go with that. And my body, I think I shifted my perception of my body when I moved to Mali, West Africa, and I did the Peace Corps, and I was seen with eyes of love from men that I had never experienced this before, because in Mali, the bigger that you are, it's perceived that you are healthy, and they basically call you goddess if you are a large woman. And so I was like, wow, okay, this is interesting. So I've been getting this message my whole life, and now I come to this country and see that this message is completely different. And so I kind of started changing or just seeing that perception was relative to cultures, and and then just started realizing that perception was all in here, and just kind of started releasing a lot of those limiting beliefs and those feelings of not being enough and inferiority or being too much and all these kind of things. And I started owning my body more, and I spent a lot of time in solitude, literally in a grass-roofed mud hut, healing myself. And the tools that I had at that point were chanting and praying and yoga, and then just going out into the village and being appreciated for my large body. So that's kind of the journey. That's the heavier part of the journey. So yeah.
For somebody who's listening, so for any of our listeners who aren't able to have that experience of going to Mali and being perceived differently, to open them up to feel a different way about their bodies, what would you suggest that they do, or what tools, could they use now to help them shift how they're feeling in their body and transform that body battle?
Yeah, so a couple of things come to me immediately, Darlene, and one of them is to reduce their interaction with media. So I mean, like, not watch as much television, because there's so many, as you know, and we've had this conversation, so many subliminal messages and so many just a continuous like spotlight on the perfect body. And it's such a, and it creates so many disorders and disruption in our own natural rhythm and harmony. And the second one I would suggest is creating a sanctuary in your own home. And what I mean by that is just really having a spot or space in your home where you can retreat, you can be by yourself. If you're a family person, or in a relationship, definitely having just it's like a part of your room that this is only for you, for your sacred healing and for your sacred connection. Or if you have the access to an entire room or like a whole space, just really creating that space for you, and just really make that your space for you to allow yourself to do anything that feels right to you, for releasing and for connecting in. Definitely we'll give more tools and everything along the way, but those are the first two things that came in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are beautiful. And that was my path too. I had to completely disconnect from media. And I mean, like, to the point of not watching any television, consciously not looking at magazines when I was out. It's just so prevalent that you don't even realize it's feeding what's subconsciously there. So I love that. And I love the suggestion of creating your own sacred space. Because you're energetically unplugging and getting back in touch with what's really true for you.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, absolutely. And just really, really creating, people are always like, I don't have time story, right? I don't have time to start something new. I don't have time for a diet kind of thing. And honestly, like, I don't agree with diets at all, because it's the same perception, like, I'm going to be able to do this, and when I finish this starvation, basically, then I'm going to have the perfect body. But you're still storing all of the all the emotions and all of the grief and everything that your body has been through when you're doing that kind of heroic dieting, if you will. Yeah, and just with that sacred space, also really just creating, even if you say, I'm going to get up 5 minutes earlier, I'm going to get up 10 minutes earlier, or take 10 minutes, or 5 minutes before I go to bed to just really sit and be still. If you're not somebody that meditates, then definitely just sitting in stillness, having a nice cup of tea, or writing, or just being. That's all you have to do, is just be, and it just kind of starts unraveling, the untruths, so that you can really be more connected in to that inner truth.
Yes, yes. To turn down that noise externally and then be able to hear internally so you can get to the truth.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Yes, and I think it's just that's I mean, such a big part of it, definitely. Just really being able to disconnect, because we do have so much of the exterior influences, and there's that so much like noise pollution that sometimes you can't even, just sitting in stillness feels uncomfortable to so many of us, because we should always be doing something. I should always be doing something, doing, right? And just allowing that stillness, you can start tuning into your body and listening to your body.
Yeah, and if I reflect back at where I was before I've learned the tools and have the awareness now that I have, and what you're sharing, and for anybody who's wondering, well, how is being still going to support me and shifting my body? And I love how you're inviting us to not reach for that diet, because it's a quick fix and it may create some short-term changes, but ultimately whatever's driving this dissatisfaction with your body is not being healed.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that came to me, though, is stillness for many of us, because we're not still. We're always in constant motion. that is so supportive physiologically to the body. So if somebody were overweight, their weight could be being created by a lot of stress in their life, or an imbalance in hormones, and creating that space of stillness calms the nervous system down and takes you to that place of peace, which is supportive to the body being more in balance with weight. So physiologically, it does relate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I also wanted to add too, a lot of times if we are overweight, and this is definitely was my case, it could be like a protection barrier, So with me, when I was reconnecting to myself, I realized that was kind of my shell that protected me from being hurt. Like I had so many of those heavy and like negative, messages given to me. I created this barrier so I could just be like, still smile and go along in life without, like receiving anymore, because I couldn't receive anymore, The irony also, Darlene, is that I am actually at the same weight that I was when I was overweight, yet my body is completely different. Completely different. And
how is it different? Is it shaped different? It feels different?
Yeah, both. So I think that what I realized is that so much of that energy of me holding on, was creating this just like a thick density around me. And the more that I did, things like yoga and sitting in stillness and writing and all these kinds of things, I was able to like release or like soften that shell and soften that barrier, and then just my body from being, I was always in a place of shame, so I was extremely hunched over, like my sister called me turtleneck because I was always like this, like hiding myself, and I just had a huge, belly and, all those beautiful rolls in my back, and I embrace it all now, and but I had thin legs. That was always the thing. But she's got great legs. Um, but now it's just like, just because I was just like, I'm not going to carry this weight on me. Like I really feel like I lifted, that weight, and I'm able to stand straight now, and it's just like my body structure is fully aligned now, where before I was always having back problems, I always had hip problems, my knees would always go out. I mean, since I was 10 years old, and I'm like healthier now than I was as a child because I decided to reconnect with myself and accept that I am eccentric, and accept that I am who I am, which is different from everyone else, and that's great, and that's wonderful. So it's just, that shift completely happened in my own body.
Cool. And I love that you're bringing to the conversation that the energetics of it, and how the body, mind, emotion, spirit, we're energy beings, and that if you are holding extra weight, or if you do have pain in your body, that it's not just the physical manifestation, that it started somewhere else, like you were putting on the weight to energetically protect yourself possibly, or you were sensing that density, which made you feel heavier, I would imagine, right? You didn't feel light and expanded.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I did feel so like weighed down and heavy and everything. So when I shared is when I got really sick, I lost, I shed all of those pounds off, and it was so weird for me to be in that new body, but I still had all of those emotional traumas, and like all of those that hurt. So it felt like so unsafe to me, because I think I lost like 50 pounds in like 2 weeks, which part of me was like, finally, it was like that masochist in me that was like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is how I could lose all my weight. Thank you, finally, But it was like I still had all the things, all the emotions that were still like in me, and so that's what I really had to work through and move through and heal. And what's coming for me also to share is with food. I had to recreate my relationship with food. I had to completely recreate it, and just by creating a relationship of true love, of unconditional love, saying that this food is nourishing my body and my being, and this food is going to help me in all these ways, versus I'm going to eat this to lose weight. I mean, I tried every diet you can imagine, from like the banana and skim milk to eating a cabbage soup for a week to Atkins diet to fasting to, I mean, anything you can imagine and fathom. What was it, the South Beach diet, like all these diets, I did all of them, you know,
Wow.
and obviously nothing was working. So as soon as I changed my relationship with food and realized, you know, like, oh my gosh, like all of this food is sacred, all of this comes from earth, and we are so disconnected in the Western world from that because we just go to a grocery store, instant gratification, get to get all we want and leave. You know, we kind of disconnect from the realization that it is all created from the earth, and you know, it is all sacred, and it's all here to support us. When I recreated that relationship, I'm not kidding you that I didn't shift very much of how I was eating. I mean, I finally balanced my diet where I could, you know, eat healthy and nourishing foods and also take pleasure in enjoying a piece of chocolate cake. You know, so once I was able to shift that, that's when I lost that's when I lost the weight, and that's when I lost the shell, because I completely changed my relationship with myself and with food.
I love it. I love it. And I would love for you to take our conversation now into this topic of reloving the eccentric you. How did that evolve for you, and what would you like to share with us today on that?
Um, yeah, so I always definitely felt like I had this part of me that was different from everybody else, right? And as I shared, like I had this shell that protected it because it didn't feel safe to share and be eccentric. Yet I definitely allowed it in my, like in my clothing style, if you will. But the way that I really truly reconnected into myself was I kind of rewove my story, if you will. So what does that mean? I started looking at the stories in my heads, like all the beliefs in my heads and all these like ideas and thoughts and everything, and I would write those down and be like, okay, is this true for me, or is this not true for me, and just kind of cross them out, if you will. And this was before I had, like, you know, my like big, I guess, tools that I've acquired in the last few years. I would do that, and then I would just be like, well, what am I? I know that I'm creative. I know that I'm tall. I know that I'm, you know, kind of writing that list of my truths. I know that I'm all of these things, and so just kind of naturally focusing on those like the parts of me that I knew that I was, and just kind of rewove my story and rewove myself. So I was able to, you know, start identifying myself for the eccentric parts of myself, you know, just knowing and understanding and accepting, yes, I'm a mystic, which was, you know, a lot to come into.
Mm.
Still is, as we saw with the internet connection.
Yes, powerful, potent being you.
Still navigating the powers and energies, but definitely just kind of accepting, yes, I am different, yes, I am eccentric, and just kind of reweaving that and saying, like, how is this going to serve? And that's what I started asking myself, how am I going to serve? How is this part of me going to serve? And what am I ready and feel safe to share with the world? So I kind of pieced myself back together, and then I slowly started sharing parts of myself to the world that felt safe, you know. So I started making jewelry. So that was my first like creative connection, and just kind of seeing, like, I was, you know, the eccentricity that came out of those pieces, and being like, wow, I made this and I've never seen this before, kind of thing, and just being like, and that's okay, and seeing, you know, that reflection that people were appreciating like the eccentricity or the originality of what I was creating. And so that's kind of what I've done. And right now, what I do, definitely, I definitely write a lot, and I think that's so important, because you're able to kind of, what I do is just kind of vent, and that's releasing like all these maybe like stories or all these places where I felt frustrated or felt fearful or felt like not myself. So I get to release all of that on a piece of paper, and then I just sit with, who am I, like, where am I today, and what feels good and safe and right to share with the world. And excuse me, I mean, definitely was like baby steps for me to feel safe, you know, enough to express who I am, and allow the eccentricity to be exposed, if you will. And the more I felt connected and safe and trusting within myself, I was mirrored that on my outside world. So now I have family where my family doesn't do that anymore. My family doesn't talk about my size anymore, and it's interesting because it's just like, because I was able to be like, hey, I'm going to stand and be right and feel good in my body.
Yeah.
And so that naturally allowed other people to accept me too, and my accent, like, and just being eccentric. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I love it. I love how you shared that you got real clear on what you saw yourself as. I'm creative, this is where I am, like owning that part, and then bringing in what you wanted to play with. And I love that you explored your edge on what felt safe for you today, because I think that as we're embracing more of our authenticity, as we're really having the courage to show up who we are without any pretense, that whole tribal thing of we need to be in alignment with what everybody else is doing so we'll be accepted. That courage that it takes, it can be so scary, and that what's safe today, and then what's safe today. So you're like pushing yourself with your edges a little bit, which is so cool. And what I was, tell me, like as you like owned for yourself who you really were, you were showing up that way in the world, and then you were received completely differently from other people in your life. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely. Yes, and it was kind of like it's almost like I made a new list of what was allowed, what I'm going to receive from the world and what I'm not going to allow to come in, and that helped me kind of create that safety net for myself. And I mean, it definitely is a process, because I mean, obviously all of those stories and all of those disorders and all of that pain and all of those disconnections that we've had, that took a life, like a lifetime to acquire. So we have to really, I think the biggest part is really being compassionate and patient with ourselves, and being okay if one day you wake up and you don't feel as wonderful as you felt the last few months. Just being okay with that and being like, this is a process. It is a process of healing, and it's a process of reconnecting and trusting ourselves. And I think that's just the biggest part of it, just really allowing the process, because I think so many people have that story. It's kind of like the instant gratification story, right? That says like, you step in and you start, reconnecting with yourself and do yoga and like do all these things, and in 3 months, like I'm going to be saved and I'm done with this story and it's all over and I'm a whole new person.
Right.
And it's not it's not like that, you know.
No, no, the magic bullet, the magic pill, it doesn't exist. And
It
yeah,
doesn't.
and the quicker we realize that and just allow ourselves to take one step and one step on the journey, the lot easier, more joyful it'll be, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that too, just kind of really matching the pain that you're going through, the pain that you're releasing and healing, with joy. So really allowing yourself, kind of inviting new ways to celebrate yourself. If you're still not feel safe enough to eat that piece of cake without feeling guilty, then maybe trying something new. Like, what is a new way that I can celebrate myself? I can maybe go for a walk. I can go to a movie. You can do so many things, and just reconditioning yourself to say, like, reconditioning, I guess, your reward system, if you will, if that aligns, because it definitely was for me, like, oh, I lost 10 pounds, now I can go get a donut, hee hee,
Right.
or now I'm like, ooh, I just had a really great breakthrough, and I'm probably going to get a piece of cake because I still do love chocolate cake, and that's part of me, and I'm allowing that, and I've released the emotions around it and the guilt and shame around it.
And that's huge.
It's huge, yeah,
Yay.
yeah,
I love chocolate cake too.
right.
It like we're having it when we're choosing it and not feeling out of control around it. Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. Not allowing that to like imprison you and into that thought that you are whatever thought that you're not enough or that you're too much or that, you know, all of those stories. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would love if you wanted to give us an empowered embodiment tool, one of your favorite tools that you use if you're going in that space of yuck, or you're not feeling so great in your body, if you still have those days, or if you just want to shift energy in general, what's one of your favorite tools that the people who are listening can take away and start using for themselves?
Yeah, can I share two very brief ones?
Oh,
One is,
yes.
and they're both, and they're both like seemingly simple yet so profound, and I'm sure that you've used both of these, but one of them is the breath. Just really, again, pausing and taking a moment and just breathing. And when you inhale, like I just say, like I inhale love and light and joy, and I exhale whatever is not serving me. That is a big umbrella. So I inhale love, light, and joy, and I exhale whatever doesn't serve me. And if you want to be specific, like I inhale love, light, and joy and acceptance, and exhale self-loathing or mistrust or whatever it is that you need to like exhale, just let it go. And that breath really does, I mean, it's the breath of life, it's the life force energy. It's what is really tangible and immediate for us to receive and to savor and to support us. So that is one. And the other one is to really connect with food in a different way. So what do I mean? Like people pray before their food, but what I pray for, and as I say, well, when I'm preparing the food, I'm connecting, and then when I'm actually eating it, I give thank you. I thank the food, and I ask it to be medicine to my body, to nourish me, to nourish my body, mind, and spirit, and I give thanks to everybody and everything that brought the food to me, because when you really think about the chain from the seed in the earth all the way to our table, it's a really long path. So if we're able to give gratitude, we can connect more with the vibrancy and the life of food, and that definitely helps me a lot. And I feel a difference when I'm eating. I don't speed eat like I used to, or want to shove my food. Like I really take time and I savor and I enjoy the food and just feel that gratitude as I'm eating it.
That's brilliant. And I also make that intention with my food, not all the time, but most of the time. And you know what I love about it, and I'm so glad that you brought it to the conversation, is several things. First, you're being mindful. You're like pausing and acknowledging that you're eating, which in and of itself can be huge if we're eating like this, right? Or just eating on the fly and not paying attention. And then you're bringing in this yummy energy of gratitude to the food that you're getting ready to eat and to your body, because that's what your focus and your intent is. And then the whole experience is completely different when you're coming from a point of view that you're grateful for this food and that you're nourishing your body with it, instead of guilt and shame around not shouldn't be eating this or just not paying attention. It's something that is truly very simple, just like the breath is simple, and it's very, very potent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think those are two things that you can do no matter where you are, like what situation you're in, how you're feeling. You can just stop and do those things. And if you're still feeling self-conscious or nervous or uncomfortable, doing those around other people, no one even knows. It's all just taking a few breaths, and it's all, thoughts and intentions in your mind. So, so that's what I would definitely want to share.
Those are great. So great. Thank you for sharing those. And I know that you have another goodie for all of our listeners, that you've extended your generosity so that they can experience more of your wisdom and your magic and what you have to offer to the world. So there's a link right below this video that you can click to check this out. And I'm going to let Valerie share with you more about what this gift is. So take it away, Valerie.
Thanks, Darlene. So on December 6th, I wanted to make sure, I'm going to do a conference call that's going to be to clear energy. So as Darlene shared, I'm able to transmit the Lavion energy that helps us align with our truth and align with our purpose, with our greater purpose. So on this full moon clearing call, I'm offering to all of the listeners and the viewers, we're going to all connect in, and we're going to move any energetic obstacles in your body. So what do I mean by that? We're going to help clear and move any of that heavy energy of old belief systems, of old patterns, or of old pain that you're holding on to be released and cleared. And then what happens is that we immediately follow that by filling you up with light. And so this is what I'm offering as my gift for all the listeners, and that'll be December 6th. So they just have to register on my website to receive the call information, and they can call from anywhere in the world. Actually, there's phone numbers from all over the world available. So don't let that limit you from receiving this.
That is so awesome. Thank you, Valerie, so much. And I'll just speak from personal experience. I have received Valerie's gifts and magic with her healing abilities, and you'll really be doing you and your body a favor if you hop on this call and be part of it. So just click that link below, and it'll take you to all the information that you need to sign up for the call so that you can participate and receive this beautiful gift from her. Thank you so much for offering that, Valerie, and just for being here and sharing this great conversation, opening up with your story, and sharing the wisdom that you've gleaned along your journey. And so, for that invitation that there's no magic pill, that it's just leaning in and just taking that step and keep opening yourself up to more of you, to be who you truly are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak my story, to share my story, and to offer the tools that have served me so much to other women and men.
Yeah. How does it get any better than this?
Oh, thank you.
All our listeners, thank you so much for being here today, for choosing this time for you, for choosing to liberate yourself from body battles so that you can shine in the world. Stay tuned for more interviews, more empowered embodiment tools and tips. And until next time, bye for now. Bye, everybody. Bye, Valerie.
Bye, Darlene. Thank you.
Thank you.